Hey everybody, Coach Jason here. Hope you're doing well. So last time I talked about 5 things that are considered essentials for runners that sometimes are overlooked and happens. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that are considered essentials for running coaches that are sometimes overlooked by us in the coaching community. And I want to know what your thoughts are. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that some people don't like to talk about that are sometimes people are afraid to ask or discuss and so on and so forth. That's why I have a serious open door policy on this channel. So if you're not sub to this channel, enjoy the content, hit that like and subscribe button. I thank you so much for that. Okay. And I've got 500 videos. You always have access to me, an experienced coach of the past 2 decades. My email is blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. So if there's any one of my videos that you want to talk about, even if it's from 5 years ago, I'm happy to do it. Okay, happy to do. I want you to know you have access to a coach anytime you need it. Okay, and I'm putting together a coaching symposium, which is basically a brain trust that allows us to brainstorm together as coaches or runners who might be aspiring coaches or whatnot who just want more information, because we just can't pick up the phone and call world-class coaches, celebrity coaches, and expect them to pick up our phone calls. Like, we can go. I've been to coaching clinics and certifications, USATFs, and blah blah blah. And after the clinics or after the certification, where is the continuing education? Right? You don't really have access to a lot of these people. So this is why I want to have continued access to coaches for you. So let's talk about these 5 things. Okay, number one is the most obvious: stopwatch. Okay, I talk about coaching with the eye is just as important as coaching with the stopwatch. I talk about it on a regular basis, but stopwatch is the weapon that we need. That's our M16, right? That's our assault rifle, whatever you want to call it. As a coach, we need that to gauge what our athletes are doing and what we're doing. And if you have prescribed pace ranges for whatever it might be, that's the one thing we need: the stopwatch. It's obvious. But the second thing is not as obvious, which is a pad and pen. Why do I say that? Well, I'm a firm believer in taking notes on all the workouts that you do or that you prescribe for your athletes. That way you know what works, what doesn't work. Okay, at what point did something stop working if that happened? And again, gives you data to go back and look and say, okay, he ran his best races or she ran her best races during this stretch. Let's take a look at the 8 weeks of training that she did leading up to it and the races that she ran. That way you can go back and see what worked. Okay, so taking notes is absolutely critical. Not the sexiest thing in the world, but is imperative. It is so effective. I highly encourage you, coaches, if you're not doing it now, to do it. Okay, it'll tell you a lot about any modifications or adjustments you might need to make in the training, and it'll definitely put you on the right foot moving forward as well. So that's number 2. Number 3 is communication, effective communication, and to your athletes, and being relatable, right? So, and sometimes as coaches, we are therapists to our athletes, and that's okay. We want them to know that we care. We want them to know that they can come to us if there's an issue, right? And because we have their best interests at heart. Okay, and whether you're an aspiring coach, this is definitely something to keep in mind as well. And I've done the head coach thing, I've done the assistant coach thing, and there are different mindsets to both. There are different priorities depending on who the person is. So, but I always let the athletes know that they matter, and no matter who they are, whether you're the number 1 person or whether you're number 20 person, they all matter. Okay, and being relatable in a way that allows you to be able to communicate your training. This is what we're doing now. This is why we're doing it and how long we're doing it for. Being able to break down your training, being able to explain what you're doing, even if sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes your athletes need it. Okay, so that's number 3. Okay, number 4. This is more of a personal opinion based on personal experience, but it's doing it out of a sense of service and out of a sense of love. What do I mean by that? Well, my closest friends in the world, I've met through this sport of running. My wife, I met through the sport of running, and I'm eternally grateful for both. Okay, and I feel a sense of service and a sense of duty to give back to the sport as much as I possibly can. This is why I do live streams on my channel. This is why I want coaches and runners to have direct access to me for any questions, okay, or any help they might need. I want them to know there are people out there who want them to get better collectively, even if there's 10,000 of you. Okay, I'll help as many as I can. Okay, and this is, to me, doing it out of a sense of service and love is, I pointed to this. We train for weeks, months, and years. And being a former competitive runner, I can relate to this too. We train for a long period of time for just a few minutes of euphoria, just a few moments of glory. All right. They don't last very long, but we'll never forget them. We'll never forget them. And I had a special guest on the other day, Tom Nohilly, who's the head coach for Atlanta Track Club Elite. So he was a former world class runner, so world class coach. And one of the things that I pointed out to him and I gave him credit for is that no matter how level he was at, okay, and I was fortunate enough to be in New York. I am a New York City boy. Fortunately, so is he. Fortunate enough to be around him and Jim and Phil Wharton, who I'm certified by the Whartons for as an active isolated flexibility too. I've been around these guys for a long period of time, and one of the things that I pointed out to him is that no matter who or how high of a level he got, he always took the time to talk to me. Always took time to help me or help the little guy or whatever. And that's something I'll never forget. That's what I'm talking about is being relatable. He's a regular dude, but he's also a world-class dude. Okay. And that to me is very, very important. No matter what level you're at. If you can relate to the people, that's fantastic. Okay. Absolutely fantastic. So that's my version of a sense of service and of love. And number 5, okay, is a willingness to listen. Okay. And having an open mind. What do I mean by that? Well, as not only a former competitive runner and a coach over the last 2 decades, I'm also a martial arts practitioner and an instructor of the last almost 2 decades as well. And one of the things that we learn is that you never stop being a student. Even if I'm an instructor, even if I'm a coach, I can learn from my athletes. I can learn from my students. You never know. Okay. And a willingness to keep the ego at the door and listen to people. It puts you in a position to learn more, to sharpen your tool shed, right? And again, the more value you add, the more knowledge you bring in, the more value you're going to add to other people. Okay. The more value you're going to add back to the sport. So having an open mind, being willing to listen, okay, and not just say, I'm the coach, you're the athlete, you do what I say. No. Okay. Okay. That's where there could be a disconnect between the athletes. Sometimes the athletes need a little bit more of a collaborative relationship. Okay. You got to be okay with that. Okay. Not everybody will be, but I am. Okay. So those are the 5 things that I think are sometimes overlooked by coaches. I can't speak for every coach. Okay. Now, a lot of coaches feel that way. A lot of coaches don't, and that's totally cool. But this is why I want to have these open forums and talk about stuff like this, because I want to make it relatable to you, whether you're an aspiring coach or a longtime runner or whatever it is. Okay. Or an experienced coach. And sometimes we'll get experienced coaches who don't want to talk about stuff like this, don't want to acknowledge these types of realities. Maybe it's ego. Maybe it's not. It is what it is. Okay. And that's just part of the sport. And there's ego in every sport, unfortunately. So, but if we can we can take that ego and use it for good to help people, I'm all for it. So that's what I got for you today. Okay. Have a great season. I got a lot more stuff coming. Okay. So make sure that you're sub to the channel. Have a great season. Have a great rest of the year. And hopefully I'll talk to you before that. And be on the lookout. The next live stream's coming soon. Talk to you next time.